What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture with a fresh new video here. This is actually a video that has been kind of 6 years in the making, and this is a follow-up to a video that I did 3 years ago. We are looking at a certain number of key comic books that I purchased with Starbucks stocks that I sold, took that cash, and then flipped it and invested in comic books. I did a video 3 years ago looking at what my return was with the comic books next to the stocks. And now, 3 years later, again, we're going to look at where I stand. Was this the right thing to do? Was it a better investment? Comic books versus Starbucks stock. We're going to get into it. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the links in the description below as well. And I'm definitely going to want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments on this one. So let's get into it. First up, what we have right here is a little, you see the video pause from the video that I did 3 years ago. And I'm going to show you here on this breakdown, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 keys. And then this is Infinite Gauntlet 1 through 6 right here at the end. So we got an Amazing Spider-Man number 300, Inhumans number 1, the first series from the Bronze Age, Marvel Premiere number 1, Amazing Spider-Man 51, Wolverine number 1, Amazing Spider-Man 265, Infinite Gauntlets number 1 through 6. Now, before we break down each book and look at where we're at in the market today, I want to show you what I did with the stocks and what it was looking like 3 years ago, and then we're going to compare that to today as well. So the first thing that's very important, okay, I took out 11 shares of stocks, as you guys can see right here where it says total shares. Those shares, when I took them out and sold them, Starbucks stock, they were at $57 a share, which totaled a cash out of $619. Now, so what did I do with that $619? Right here, you can see. I took that $619 and bought all these books. Now, 3 years ago, which was 3 years after, I sold the stocks in 2018. And I bought these books in 2018. And then 3 years ago, those books were worth $1,254. So I basically doubled my money right here on that investment. Now, of course, Starbucks stock gained as well because 3 years ago, Starbucks stock was worth $90, up from the $57 from when I sold them. So when you look at, well, which one was the better investment? Starbucks stock 3 years ago, at the time I was making this video, at $90 a share, was worth $990 for that 11 shares. And the comic books that I bought for that 11 shares was worth $1,254. So technically, 3 years ago, the comic books in 2021 were a better investment than me keeping the money in the Starbucks stock from 2018. I made about, what, $264 more hypothetically by buying the comics if I could sell all those comics at the fair market value that they were at. All right, but now we're going to look at where they're at today. So as you can see, it looks exactly the same, but the numbers are different. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at one book at a time. So we got Amazing Spider-Man 300 right here. And we all know what Amazing Spider-Man 300 is. Obviously, it's the first full appearance of Venom with the classic McFarlane cover. So, looking at the numbers, I purchased this book in 2018 as a CGC 8.5 for $275. This book was worth like 600 and something when I did the first video. It's definitely dropped back down to 340, which is still a dollar amount return on investment of $65, meaning it's worth $65 more now, fair market value, than it was when I purchased it. That would be a return on investment of 24%. All right, next book is Inhumans number 1, which is the first title in their solo series. It's a fun book. that obviously, if we go and look back, there's not too much gain here. I paid $40 for CBCS 8.5. Current fair market value right now is at $45, which is just a $5 difference at a 13% return on investment. Still a fun Bronze Age book, number one, of affordable too, still to this day. All right, next up we got Marvel Premiere number one. This one picked up during COVID and then kind of pulled back down again. So Marvel Premiere number one. This is the first appearance of him as Warlock, technically as Adam Warlock, but he wasn't called Adam until issue number two. That is key. So let's look at what Marvel Premiere number one's been doing. I bought it for $85 for CBCS 6.5. And where's this today? At about $85. So no gain there. Again, it did go up. I think it was like, if we looked at the other video, it was up a very small percent then too. So this book hasn't moved too much since 2018. Now, another key indicator I want to point out is that I purchased all these books before COVID. So these are before COVID numbers. Obviously, right now we're in post-COVID, outside of the COVID boom, where the market has been hurting. And it's really good, outside, putting the stocks aside for a minute, like, oh, what's the better investment, the Starbucks stock or the comics? Put that aside. And this is a good indicator of seeing where the market is right now next to pre-COVID. And as you can see so far, I mean, stuff is still up outside of this one book. But let's go ahead to the next book, which is Amazing Spider-Man number 51, which is a really solid Silver Age Spider-Man book. Second appearance of the Kingpin, first appearance of Robbie Robertson, and first cover of Kingpin. Quite honestly, I know 50 is the big book, but I don't think this gets enough love because it is the first cover of Kingpin. I think it's been I hate saying undervalued, but definitely under-recognized for that key element for a long time. All right, so I bought this book raw at about a 4.5. When I bought it, I paid $50. Right now, in about a 4.5 raw, it's worth about $85. It's about a $35 increase, which is a 70% return on investment. So, Silver Age Spidey, looking good right there. All right, next up we got Wolverine number one, which is, of course, the first solo series limited edition. I paid $67 for a CGC 9.6. Current fair market on this is solid $246. It's an increase of $179 at a 267% return on investment. That is awesome. Next up, we got Amazing Spider-Man 265, which is the first appearance of Silver Sable right here. Cool little Copper Age key. CBCS 8.5, I paid only $42 for that. Not much gain there. Sitting at about $49 now, $7 increase, 17% return on investment. Now, this is a interesting one to look at. The whole set, 1 through 6 of the Infinity Gauntlet, basically near mint to near mint plus. I'm calling them 9.8 raws. I mean, these things are immaculate. I actually got 2 sets of those. I paid $60 for the whole set, and of course here's number one. So I broke down each of them right now. Number one sitting at about a $40 FMV. 2 is 15, 3 is 15, 425, 520, 620. So that's a total of $135, which is up 75 from what I paid, which is an increase of about 125%. So looking at my total cost for the comics, remember, I sold the 11 shares of Starbucks stock, $619 total. Again, what I paid stays the same. I paid $619 for these in 2018. The total fair market right now, fair market value, is sitting at $985. Now, of course, that is down. Let's go ahead and look. That's down, from $1,254 3 years ago. But, $1,250, what's that? $280 about. So it's definitely down from COVID peak, but That's all right. I'm still sitting at a $366 increase, which is a 59% return on investment just from the price paid. So, if we want to just look at the indicator of the market, and I know this is just a sample size of a handful of books, but with these keys, a little mixture of Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper, and some early 90s Copper slash modern, whatever you want to label the Infinity Gauntlets, the market is still doing decent from pre-COVID. And that is a good, healthy sign for comic books in general. Now, let's compare them to the Starbucks stocks. So remember, Starbucks stocks were worth $90 a share 3 years ago. Boy, Starbucks. What have you been doing, Starbucks? Now, I know they're up from 2018, but look at this. Starbucks stock is at only $75 a share now. Now, if I was going to do this video a few days ago, they were at 71. So they gained a good amount. That few dollars is a good amount just in the last couple of days. So down $15 a share from 2021. Funny thing about this too, guys, is in 2022, Starbucks stock did hit a peak at about, I believe, at about $107 a share. So Starbucks is really, really taking a dip. So, obviously, if I kept that $619, those 11 shares in the Starbucks stock, they still would be worth $825, right? So, and that would mean I would be above my initial value from 2018, $206, which would mean they're up that $18 a share, right? So that would be, if I sold them today, if I kept them in there and sold them today, that would be a 33.28% return on investment, right? So what is my comic book return on investment if I sold all these today? It is, like it says right here, $985, and that's a 59% investment. So I brought those over here. So look at this. If I was to sell today, and if I was to get fair market value for all these books, the comic books would still get me more money. They would give me a 59% return on investment next to the Starbucks stock giving me a 33%. So, what does that say? Again, this is only a sample size and we're only looking at one company's stock. But over the last 6 years, these key comic books, even in the fluctuation of the market, because remember, during COVID, the stock market boomed up. So did comic books. Even through their ebbs and flows and ups and downs, these comic books, these specific comic books, have been a better investment than Starbucks stock. Now, people might argue, oh, well, Starbucks pays out dividends too. Well, you're only looking at 11 shares, and I don't have the actual numbers on hand, but over 3 years, I know for a fact that what's the difference here? So the difference in the current Starbucks stock next to the comic books value is $160, $160 difference. I know darn well that I did not get paid out in the last 3 years $160 in dividends from Starbucks. Oh, and I'm saying that because I still have Starbucks stock. And actually, I have more Starbucks stock than 11 shares now. I have, I think, like 20 shares left. So, and even with that, I was paid nothing close to $100 and something in dividends. So still, these key comic books, folks, have been a better investment than Starbucks stock. Now, if we compared it to Apple stock or like Oracle stock or, there's stocks out there that Coca-Cola stock, yeah, it would be a whole nother story because even though these comics would have gained value, those stocks are up. Apple stock is almost up double since 2021. I don't know going back to 2018. So that just goes to show you. I'm not sitting here making an argument saying comic books are a better investment than stocks. No, we're looking at one single company's stocks. But it does go to show you that certain comic books are solid investments. And that's the takeaway that I want you all to get. Is it risky? Absolutely. The stock market's risky. Some stock more than others, just like some comics more than others. And I've been saying this for a very long time. 99% of your comics, especially new release comics, modern comics of the last 20 plus years, depreciate. Not all comics are an investment just because they're a comic book. So we got to get that out of our heads. But if you know what you're doing and you do it right, you can win out even when the market is on a downturn. So I could break this down a lot more and get more nuance into the whole how to invest in comics and what it means compared to the stock market. Because majority, I'll say this. Final thing I'll say is for the majority of comics, we don't want to be looking at them like the stock market. We don't. Because like I just said, most comic books depreciate once you drive them off the lot, so to say. That's my video for today, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, maybe 3 years from now, we'll do this again and we'll see how these books are doing. Again, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Thank you guys for watching. Be well, and until next time.